Good evening, my beautiful bar rats. It is Tuesday, the 4th of March, 2024. Happy Fat Tuesday to all my fellow Catholics. I hope you are celebrating as you eat, drink, and be merry. For tomorrow starts Lent. And I hope you have your Lenten plan set and ready to go. Mine is ready to go as well. And I hope you have a fruitful and productive Lent. In my masochistic way, that means I hope you have the toughest spiritual Lent that you can, because only through adversity can you grow. And I challenge all my fellow Catholics to push yourself as much as possible during Lent. Past Lents I've done during Holy Week. I've done the coffee water fast from Monday through Easter Sunday. I've done other things. What am I going to do this year? I am planning to do one meal in the morning after I work out, because you have to refill after you work out. It's gonna be egg whites, blueberries, some oatmeal, and a one of those Killer Dave English muffins. So nothing too heavy, but just stuff to help give fuel and protein. So it helps with body recovery, and that'll be the only meal for the day for me. I will try to do. If I do fall off the wagon and I need something, I have a protein shake I can take at noon. But really trying to test myself as much as possible. So that's what I will be doing for Lent. And obviously, I got a couple books that I would like to read and get after. Right, Killer Dave's is good stuff. Their bagels are really good, except that where my grocery store, they're always out of the bagels. So the only thing they have are the little English muffins. So that's what I'm going to be using. I really like the Killer Dave, like regular. Anyway, so for the Catholic Inside Baseball, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow's Ash Wednesday. I will not be going to Ash Wednesday services. It's not a holy day of obligation, and the church near me decided to have it at 9 o'clock in the morning. The problem is I start working at 8. So it's a little bit of a problem when the church near me is run by old people. So they don't have an earlier mass for me, but it's all right. It'll be still a good start to Lent, and we're going to make it a good 40 days, ladies and gentlemen. For my fellow Catholics, we're going to get after it. As for tonight, let me explain. Last night, wife had car trouble, and she almost got stranded. I live near Colleen, and she got stranded. She almost got stranded up near Waco. Obviously, being the amazing, valiant husband that I am, I had to go to her assistance and make sure everything was okay. Problem is, it was too close to showtime, so that was why I had to cancel it. And now I'm back. That's a problem when you try to do a 5-day-a-week stream, especially at night. Life happens, and so every once in a while, that's why I will miss a show or two. I promise not to make it a habit, and I appreciate everybody hanging out with me tonight, because we have a big show for you. And make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share button, either if you're on Rumble or on YouTube. And if you're on X and this is the first time you've ever seen this account, hit the follow button, because I'm going to be reviewing the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again tomorrow. I will have something for you tomorrow morning. I will have a review of the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again for you guys on the channel. Probably it'll drop at like 10 a.m. Tomorrow morning, but I'll record it earlier in the morning before work begins. But yes, I'm going to review all the new Daredevil shows on Disney Plus, because I think it's one of the few that I think actually deserves it. So I will be adding that to the queue of things that we do here on RickCast as well. So that's why you want to stay subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell, so when new episodes and new clips drop, you'll be first to know. All right, I've been teasing it. What do we got on deck for tonight? We're going to talk about Zelensky. We're going to talk about the Florida Attorney General going after the Tate brothers. We're going to talk about this clip that's going around the interwebs about all the Democrats talking in unison. And then we got our 4 stories. Trump's speech tonight. Derek Chauvin is now the new cause du jour on the right. And it's not that I don't disagree technically. It's where was everybody the last 4 years? They were cowering in their holes, but I'll get to that. And then we have the MLB striking out on a deal with ESPN. Oh, thank you, Crotchety Elder. I try to change it up. And so thank you. I appreciate it. They are the first major league sport, professional sport, to suffer the ramifications, I believe, of Black Lives Matter and going woke in on politics, because ESPN, they were getting $500 million. ESPN offered them $200 million. And I expect every other one, with maybe the exception of football right now, to all start coming down post their current deals. And that includes the NBA. So we'll talk about that. And then there's this e-girl named Amouranth. She's a Twitch thought. And, but we have a story because somebody tried to rob her and she clapped them fools. Not in that way. She actually took her $7,000 staccato, or her boyfriend took her their $7,000 staccato, and exercised their God-given right to keep and bear arms. That always gets a thumbs up from the armed Catholic. Or I'm sorry, not the armed Catholic. Me. And we're going to talk about that as well. So we have a packed show for you. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, and we are on our way. First story of the night comes to us from the interwebs. And let's see. It's from Dominic Michael Trippy, or Trippy, Trippy or Trippy, the pluri of trip. I don't know. Either way, we're going to take a look at it. And this coincides with the Tate brothers landing in Florida, which of course has divided conservative media, because some people are like, oh, the Tate brothers are great. And most normal people are like, the Tate brothers are gross and you shouldn't be platforming them. This is the one thing that I can't go with Candace Owens on. Now, there are rumors that Candace Owens' husband is friends with the Tate brothers, and that's why that's a whole big thing. But that's not really confirmed. But this comes to us from Dominic Michael Trippy. Florida Attorney General executes search warrant against Andrew and Tristan Tate. And if you want to know why, you can just ask the Attorney General yourself.
Themselves publicly.
Go back to the beginning.
Yeah, look, these guys have themselves publicly admitted to participating in what very much appears to be soliciting, trafficking, preying upon women around the world. Many of these victims coming forward, some of them minors, people can spin or defend however they want. But in Florida, this type of behavior is viewed as atrocious. We're not going to accept it. They chose to come here and set their feet down in this state. And we're going to pursue every tool we have within our legal authority to hold them accountable. So we are in the process today. We have secured and executed subpoenas and warrants, and we're going to continue to move forward with full force of law. This is an ongoing criminal investigation, and we're going to use every tool we have to ensure that justice is served.
Do you open a criminal investigation?
There is an active criminal investigation, yes.
Do you believe that can you give me any details of what?
I can't comment on a pending investigation, but what I can tell you is if these guys did criminal activity here in Florida, we will go after them with the full force of law and hold them accountable.
So this is not the same Attorney General. Crotchety Elder asked, what about Epstein? This isn't the same Attorney General that was there when Epstein was there. He actually just got moved up because Ashley Moody used to be the Attorney General. Now she's a senator in Florida. And Laura Loomer is saying that the one and only Pam Bondi was the Attorney General while Epstein was doing his thing. I don't know. I'm not going to chase that rabbit hole. I'm just saying that's one of those things. But this Attorney General was not around during the Epstein. So that's my explanation for that. Listen, the Tate brothers are criminals. The Tate brothers are pimps. The Tate brothers are not good men. And one of their victims is a U.S. citizen. And now if they expect to fly into these United States and get the red carpet treatment, I know they went on an episode of, the slimeball Patrick Bet-David today, which I don't respect that guy either. That guy's most of your conservative influencers are garbage, which is why you watch this show. But, the Tate brothers committed crimes. The Tate brothers are on U.S. soil. The Tate brothers are not above the law. I fully support the Attorney General opening up cases against them. And of course, people Tate's defenders are like, lawfare is so democratic. No, it's called enforcing the law, you dummies. And don't give the Tate brothers a pass. I don't get the conservative case for Andrew and Tristan Tate. They're not good people. And I'm it's not Christian. Have you seen half of the things that they have talked about? And the only reason they're quote unquote MAGA is because they know how to, you say whatever you want about them, but they know how to read the winds. And they know they will get favorable treatment by speaking out against the matriarchy and promoting quote unquote masculinity. But the kind of masculinity they're quoting is not what we should be buying. So I know some people are like, that's not right. I don't give a rip, and I support the Florida Attorney General going after them. Yeah, I don't know. See, that's why I'm saying I'm not. Loomer is making the case. I haven't dug in enough. So don't quote me on that. I'm not saying she is, but that is what it is. So that's the first one. We'll see. I'd love to see the Tate brothers in prison because they committed crimes and they promote. Of course, there is the backlash. You put them in prison, you turn them into martyrs. So you can't win either way with these guys because their supporters are going to support them. Next story up, ladies and gentlemen, from the AP. Beautiful story. It's a beautiful story. The IRS is drafting plans to cut as much as half of its 90,000 person workforce. Remember, under the Biden-Harris regime, they were adding like 100,000 agents. Now they're going to cut it. Good. They should be. The IRS is drafting plans to cut half its workforce and through a mix of layoffs, attrition, and incentive buyouts, according to two people familiar with the situation. People spoke on a condition of anonymity, which I can't, anonymity, that's one of those words I can't say. It's like choo-choo trains or train tracks. I can't say that stuff because they weren't authorized. Layoffs are a part of the Trump administration's effort to shrink the size of the federal workforce through billionaire Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency by closing agencies, laying off nearly all probationary employees who have not yet gained civil service protections, and offering buyouts to almost all federal employees through the deferred resignation programs to quickly reduce the size of the federal workforce. This is a win. Everybody hates the IRS. I love it. What Trump should do, and I know it's not going to happen, but you're not going to get rid of the taxes. I know he says, we're going to get rid of potato tariffs. Man, I wouldn't even care. Cut it to a flat tax. Cut it to a flat tax, and let's just move on with life. That's what we should do. It should just be a flat tax. That's it. You get it to a flat tax and move on, I'd be happy with that because all the other loopholes and all the 9,000 pages of it's confusing on purpose. But this looks like this might be happening too. Of course, some idiot will go to some judge in some liberal district and they'll put a stop to it and all these other kinds of things. But hey, the IRS is garbage. It's the IRS. It's the ATF. They're all terrible. I don't really care about H&R Block. The one time I went to H&R Block when I was younger, I ended up owing money. So no offense to those people, but not a big H&R Block person. Am I not good for granted? No, I'm not. So that's whatever it is. Yeah. All right. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have this story coming out this morning about this trend the Democratic Party is doing right now, and that is trying to go on the TikTok and influence the culture by giving the exact same script. Now, this doesn't just happen here. This happens for like nutrition supplements and trends. Everybody gets handed a script, and they kind of just go about their business with saying the lines. Now, the Democrats decided to do this today, and it's actually a pretty hilarious fail because once again, the Democrats, they demonstrate the lack of knowledge that they have that the internet actually, exists. Let's take a look.
Immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
Not true. That's what you just saw.
Look at all these cool hip Democrats holding the microphone like all the Gen Zers do, right? You don't have to hold the microphone, but all the Gen Zers do, or they hold like a microphone or something like that. So you have all these geriatrics pretending that they're actually cool, and with the hip kids, there's the genius of the Democratic Party, Hirono, whatever her name is. Yeah, Cory Booker. There's Chief Warren. Where's Schumacher? He's the worst looking one. He's around here somewhere, or maybe I'm blocking him. Look at all these cool Democrats repeating the exact same talking point. Oh, there's Schumacher right here. All the same thing. All the same thing. All the same script. It's propaganda. Propaganda put out by the Democratic Party trying to convince you that, you know, Donald Trump is bad. And, you know, he hasn't cut, you know, prices have gone up. Egg prices have gone up, which, by the way, real quick, I'm not going to cover tonight's speech. We're talking about it here, but I'm not going to live stream it because it's not the State of the Union. These things are boring. And besides the fact that I have to, I'm going to be watching Daredevil Born Again so I can review that. But the fact is, Democrat women, and this is just hysterical optics. Apparently, like AOC and the squad members are going to wave around like empty egg cartons, which if you get their age and the fact that they're for abortion, the fact that they're waving around empty egg cartons is kind of the biggest cell phone that they don't even realize. They're going to get memed out of existence. And it's just going to be a mockery. I don't care. I don't care about tonight's address, but this is their plan to try and get to the youth is by every single one of them repeating the exact same thing, and so forth. So Crouchy Elder asks, do I think that Trump is going to pull out of NATO or the UN? He might. He might. That's actually a great transition to our next story, and I'll talk about it as we bring up our next story here. And it's about Zelensky, and so it fits perfectly. So I think the UN, I think the European countries really stepped in at this time with what they are doing and the way they reacted to the Zelensky thing. Louder with Crowder and his crew really ripped them apart this morning. It was like the English went out with them and like, we support the Ukraine and we are going to stand with them until the end. And then they got behind closed doors. He's like, what you really need to do is get on the phone and call Donald Trump right now. You really need to call Donald Trump and you really need to get back on his good graces. Because it's becoming a quick reality that outside of like Poland and one or two other countries like Greece, nobody else hits the GDP percentage of what they're supposed to contribute. They've all been under the blanket of the US for so long that they brag about their social welfare programs. They brag about all of their things while, thumbing their nose at the US. You guys don't have universal health care. And it's like, you guys have 75,000 men in your army. What are you talking about? The only reason you get to have universal health care and all these other things is because you don't spend money on defense because you know the U.S. is the world police. And I could see Trump making a statement to the fact that if we don't get a resolution in the Ukraine by April 1st or something like that, I'm pulling out of NATO. I could see him saying something to that effect. He won't announce a direct pull out of NATO now, but he's going to float that trial balloon out there. And especially since he just cut off aid to Ukraine last week now, or he cut it off yesterday, which Zelensky's coming back to the table, he'll float it out. If we don't get a deal done in the Ukraine by April 1st, April Fool's Day, they call it, but it's not a fool. I'm not a fool. I will pull out of NATO and that'll be it. I could see him using it as a negotiating tactic. And so that's what I think. Mark, who are they going to get that stuff from? The only nuclear power in Europe is France, and their stuff is outdated. The UK has secondary measures. They're not a nuclear power either, so I don't think they would become. The only way they really become nuclear powers is with the help of the US. Like, who's going to? The only problem with pulling out of of NATO, and I heard this debate this morning, which makes some sense. The only major issue with pulling out of NATO is that you leave it wide open for the Chinese to try and swoop in and fill those gaps. To say, oh, well, if the U.S. won't support you, we'll support you, we'll help you, and all this other kind of stuff. Of course, we're starting to play like 4D chess here. I don't think Trump would leave NATO without security agreements with major countries like the UK. It kind of sets itself up like World War I. You could have like treaties with groups of countries. But the fact of the matter is the EU is starting to fall apart anyway. I had a simp post this morning for the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. She's the only exception. I don't like women in politics, but I like Giorgia Meloni. Is it because she's Italian? And I'm just like, oh, but beep a boop. I mean, I'm half Italian and half Irish. I'm just like, oh, but beep a boop. I love it. But she's like, yeah, you can go into the Ukraine, but I'm not sending my people in there. She's not playing around. Other countries aren't. There isn't unified support for Ukraine from the EU. It's the British and the Spanish and the French and like Sweden making kind of like blah, blah, blah noises. But when Maloney's like, we're not going. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. You guys can go, but I'm not going. It makes all of this interesting. Now we have Zelensky on his hands and knees crawling back to the White House. So this came up this morning. Zelensky is now pleading for a deal. In our meeting, I'm not doing the act. In our meeting in Washington at the White House on Friday, did not go the way it was supposed to. It's time to make things right. We would like future cooperation and communication to be constructive. And then he has this like series of tweets. None of us want this endless war. Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace to closer. This is a huge turnaround from Friday and Saturday and Sunday when he was puffing his chest out. There's never going to be peace until Americans are there, blah, blah, blah. Now he's like, oh, yeah, because the British probably went, by the way, you need to call the Americans right now because we can't do anything for you. We have 2 aircraft carriers and only one of them works half the time. And so, regarding an agreement on the minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time and in a convenient format. He's like, I'll docu-sign it if you want. Send it to me in a text message, whatever. We'll see this agreement as a step to greater security and solid security guarantees. And I truly hope it'll work effectively. I don't think, going back to Crotchety Elder's initial question, I don't think Trump needs to pull out of NATO at this point. He's won because he called the main bluff. He cut off all funding to Ukraine. She cut off all y'all talking about Maloney in the chat, and so I'm getting my mixed up. Trump, he did it. He pulled the Ukraine funding, and that's when everybody else went, oh no, you didn't. So I don't think he needs to threaten to leave NATO because he's already made it loud and clear that he'll cut funding when and wherever he pleases, and he doesn't care. And it kind of was a reminder to the rest of the NATO countries that you guys, it turned into the Boromir speech from the Council of Elrond. Only by the blood of my people are your lands kept safe, essentially. It was a Boromir moment for Trump. And everybody else was like, oh, yes, that's right. We have this crappy universal health care because we don't spend any money on defense. Although, you got to give it to the British. They were with us in Afghanistan. They were with us in Iraq. They've always been with us side by side. It's just the fact that their country's turning into it will be a majority Muslim country within the next 10 years. I mean, they're making little Ramadan packets for them and all this other kinds of stuff. So that's another thing. NATO is a treaty, and you'd have to get advice and consent with the Senate. But Trump could cut funding to it, right? He could always say, we're going to reduce our funding to NATO. That doesn't have to go through the Senate. He could always threaten, we're going to cut our defense spending to the Ukraine. So, and to NATO by far. But he did it already. He cut off the funding to the Ukraine. Everybody had 24 hours to actually realize that the music had stopped, and suddenly none of them had chairs except the United States grabbed all the chairs and turned the music off. And so they were all standing there in the middle of the dance floor. And Trump's like, I have all the chairs. You can't go anywhere. I have them all. And so they're like, yeah, you know what? Zelensky, shut your mouth and go back to the table. And it looks like Trump will probably announce that tonight, more than anything else, that the agreement either has been signed or Zelensky will sign it tomorrow or something like that. He's going to use this as a big moment to push the Ukraine peace deal. I think that's going to be one of those big things. So Lou asks, what we believe, why would we believe Zelensky now? Because he has no choice, because the military aid's cut off. He has no options. There's no money flowing to the Ukraine right now, and Trump's pretty serious about it. This was also after the tour that he went around Europe, and they all said we're going to support him, and then he cut off the funding, and everybody went, "Yeah, well, you need to sign it." I think there's a lot of internal pressure, and then you have Maloney and other people saying, you know, we're not going into the Ukraine. I know you think that we're going to send soldiers in, but we're not. So that's why I would believe he has the incentive to sign it now. He may back out. People in the chat are letting me know that he's backed out of him before, and you are all correct. I just am on the mind that how the funding goes everything else. So we'll see. And you guys who watch, and of course, I will highlight the speech tomorrow. We'll go over what Trump talked about on RickCast tomorrow night. So we'll see how he goes from there. This is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. If you like what we're doing, post it on X if you like what we're doing. Get this out to as many people as possible. And let's move on to our first story. Those are just the warm-up stories, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. I have such great seamless transitions. We just talked about Zelensky and possibility of Trump announcing something tonight. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Trump's speech before Congress, his joint address before Congress, as a king should. Of course, those of you who know your history know that the State of the Union, that was started by Woodrow Wilson. He actually started going there and making those statements. Presidents rarely went to Congress to make speeches unless it was like Roosevelt in World War II or something major. Like the yearly thing was not a practice. Most of them just kind of wrote a letter like, yeah, this is the State of the Union, blah, blah, blah. And then they sent it to Congress. There's nothing in the Constitution that says the president needs to stand in front of Congress and wax poetic for 2 hours and bore the hell out of everybody. But now Wilson started it. Obama was the one who started doing joint addresses whenever he felt like it, because, you know, Obama loves the camera. And so he would go over there and be like, well, today I shot a video with Jay-Z. And then he'd stand back and they'd be like, oh my God, that's all right. That you shot. And then, of course, Republicans would sit there. And it's just another example of how we are in an elected monarchy. But 7 things to look for tonight, according to Politico, blah, 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 Trump do. Number 1, how does Trump address people's frustration with high prices? As far as I am looking at it, this frustration with high prices seems to be a Democratic talking point, because they're trying to be like, oh, the prices haven't come down. Oh, the prices have gone up. This is amazing. It's all Trump's fault. And most people who have a brain with an IQ above lukewarm soup understand that the economy is an aircraft carrier and not a speedboat. And when you printed money and you've done all these other things, it's not going to be spun around in a week. And we all know that the most important thing that's happening right now is that we need to absolutely address the prices of beer. And I am very, very confident Trump will make a case. I don't drink, but I know there's a beer crisis. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a program. We're going to make sure that the beer is too damn high. It's too damn high. So this is a Democratic talking point, but it's because it's being pushed. Trump will probably address it, and he'll throw Joe Biden under the bus, as he does. Another reason why the economy is supposedly not doing good right now is because a lot of people are losing their jobs. And so that's going to reflect in the unemployment numbers. Well, when you fire half the federal workforce, it's not going to look good, right? It's not going to look good. So there is that. Yeah. And then there's the budget deficits. I'm sure he'll highlight Doge's saving of money and all this other kind of stuff. But the problem is there's so much money that have been pushed into the market for too long. Somebody's going to end up holding the bag on this. So we'll see how that goes in that regard. But right now, economic confidence, I actually put out there was a report a week or two ago from Gallup of all places that people actually had a pretty good feeling economically because this is early in Trump's term. I know the Democrats are panicking because they're trying to rush this through, but I don't think that's going to work. How much time does Trump spend talking about Doge? How does he frame Musk's role? Like I said, when we were talking about prices, he'll mention Doge. I think Doge will be something that is woven into the entire speech. And then, it won't be like, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Doge. It's great. Love you, Elon Musk. Shout out. Now we're going on to the next thing. He'll talk about Doge in the beginning, and then he'll highlight Doge through different things. I don't think it's going to be a one shot. It'll be part of an overall narrative to try and work to, saving money for the American people or something of that nature. Yeah, I think that's been the plan all along, is to, sandbag Trump with this economy on the way out the door. Number 3, how does Trump talk about the administration's progress on mass deportations? I'm sure he will talk about, the deportations that are happening. He'll say, whatever her name is, DHS Barbie is doing a great job. And what he's going to do is he's going to throw it back on the Democratic mayors in the Democratic states. We're not getting a lot of help. There are still Democratic mayors and Democratic governors who are fighting the American people. So he'll throw them correctly under the bus. Number 4, the mineral deal with the Ukraine. I'm sure he's going to lead with that. His message to Congress, shut up and do what I want you to do, because I have a mandate. And what does Trump talk about? The only thing Trump does talk about, himself. He's going to talk about himself the whole time. And that doesn't shock me, and it shouldn't shock you. And that's what people voted for. And then how did Democrats respond? Like petulant little children, because that's the only way they know how to. They appointed some wackadoo Democrat to give the quote unquote response, which I've always labeled as the kiss of death. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you go from watching the president stand in front of Congress and half of Congress is clapping and it looks very regal and he's standing in front of the flag and he's got everybody behind him and blah, blah, blah. This time he's going to have both. He's going to have the speaker and JD Vance clapping for everything. He's like, and today I breathe the air, and they're going to go, and they're all going to clap for it. And so it'll be, you go from that to somebody staying in a room by themselves going, all right, folks, here's why he's wrong. Nobody cares. It's a kiss of death. She's going to bomb. And so I don't expect anything to come out of that. Well, over under blaming Biden for all. You say it's an 8 at what, 10? I will raise you up one. When you fact check, those claims will probably be true. And let's one more time, Steph. Thank you for being our resident liberal. We love having you on the show. Presidents blame previous presidents, and that trend was started by Obama. It really was. Obama ran against Bush for 8 years. He ran against Bush for 8 years. So he did it, and then Trump blamed Obama, and then Biden blamed Trump, and now Trump will blame Biden, and blah, blah, blah. The only time you won't see that is if you have 2 successive Republicans or 2 successive Democrats, which hasn't happened since Reagan and the first Bush. So we'll see how that goes. But that's Trump's address tonight. He's going to be speaking, and, you can watch it if you want the politicos to watch it. I'm not going to watch it. And we'll talk about it regardless tomorrow on RickCast. So that is the official story there. All right, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell if you like what we are doing. And let's move on to our next subject, which is something that just kind of came out of nowhere. And it's a little strange how this story popped up. And I don't like the source that it comes from. Now, this is, Jason Whitlock brought this up and everybody kind of made fun of him. Let's just get to it. So this just popped up on the timeline today, and everybody went, really? Not Elon Musk, but little Ben Shapiro just kind of jumped on the timeline and dropped this bomb on everybody.
Issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should. He should pardon him his federal charges. If we are talking about reversing the evils of the last several years in American life, obviously COVID and its handling was a massive evil. Destroyed the economy, set us on a path to fiscal insanity, destroyed children, led to massive health-related cover-ups.
Which, by
Just
the way,
horrifying.
Little Ben was all in favor of. Never forget, Little Ben was in favor of the shot. Little Ben was in favor of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Don't let him rewrite this history. Little Ben was Captain Vaccination. Little Ben was Captain 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Little Ben has been an anti-Trumper. He is still an anti-Trumper. He's just trying to ride the coattails so, the conservative movement doesn't toss him out, the baby with the bathwater. Don't let him get away with that.
All the way around. And President Trump has taken on a lot of those things. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime, was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not in fact commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. He was in the car saying he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin, for large segments of even the tape that was shown, had his knee on George Floyd's shoulder or back, not on his neck. The autopsy of George Floyd showed that he had no damage to his trachea, that probably George Floyd died of excited delirium. There were no accusations, even at trial, that Derek Chauvin had committed a hate crime against George Floyd or that he targeted George Floyd because of his race. Nonetheless, on the basis of extraordinarily scanty evidence, and despite the fact that there was massive pressure on the jury, that the mayor of Minneapolis paid a settlement to the George Floyd family immediately, that the president of the United States suggested that Derek Chauvin was guilty right off the bat, that the jurors were being openly threatened and admitted as much. Despite all of that, Derek Chauvin was convicted on federal charges and pled guilty to federal charges. Derek Chauvin should, in fact, be pardoned on that. We will be covering that a lot more in coming weeks.
I'm muted. Okay. Where were you in 2021? Where were you in 2022? Where were you in 2023? Where were you? You were hiding because it wasn't politically expedient for you, Ben Shapiro. You didn't think it was the cause du jour then. Why are you doing it now? Bravery is not speaking up when it's safe. Bravery was speaking up in 2021. Bravery was speaking up in 2022, but you didn't. You've always been an anti-Trumper, and why you're bringing this up now, it's absolutely ridiculous. And we're going to show the receipts in a moment. And I'm not going to mute myself so I don't have that happen to me again.
I think it is worthwhile to remember that there is a man who is rotting in prison because the media decided in the middle of 2020 that they were going to turn a tragic law enforcement stop that ended with the death of a man who had a significant problem with drugs and pre-existing health problems into the raison d'etre of the entire 2020 election.
And you were nowhere to be found. In fact, we will show the receipts in a moment.
And it led to vast chaos. It led to, again, the destruction of racial comedy in the United States, $2 billion in property damage, and a guy rotting in prison who the evidence demonstrates certainly was not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in that case. If we're going to talk about delivering pardons, President Trump, I think, should really seriously consider pardoning on federal charges. He can't pardon on state charges. Derek Chauvin.
All right, enough of that. Let's get to this. And this is what I'm talking about. Conservatives that instinctively sided against Chauvin or McMichaels shouldn't be trusted just because they can tell which way the wind was blowing. Back in 2021, government has one primary function: to prevent the violation of rights of life and liberty. A police officer destroyed George Floyd's rights. That is no excuse for our government to abandon citizens' rights to life and liberty in favor of rioters and looters. Do your damn jobs. I returned from a 2-day Jewish holiday and half the country is on fire. We all agree on George Floyd, which is why a bad cop is now under arrest. Anyone who defends looting and rioting and targeting of business owners on a basis is short of evil. Guess what? Guess what? He wasn't there. He was not there when you need it. You're not stealing TVs to honor George Floyd protest police brutality. You're stealing that TV because you're a blank. And yes, of course, the officer in that video should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of their law breaking. Now, hey, I don't mind it if somebody's like, hey, I looked at this stuff and it's probably not the way it was spun. But why didn't you do that in 2022, homie? Why didn't you do it in 2023? Why now? Why now? And forget anybody that says, well, Richard, no. Don't come out because, as this guy correctly quoted in his tweet, because the wind's blowing the proper way, now you're going, well, we should totally pardon Derek Chauvin. I mean, it was incorrect. You absolutely cheerled the prosecution and the destruction of Derek Chauvin's life. And now, does he not forget that this actually exists, that people actually know and keep the receipts from this? He doesn't even like Donnie. He's always been an anti-Trumper. He's always, him and Beck, they just jumped on board because half their audience liked Donald Trump. Why do it now? Because he's a grifter. He's the king of grifting. And so now he's going to come out as this law and justice, reformer. Oh, well, we gotta save Derek Chauvin because he was unfairly prosecuted. You know why? Because people like you led the cheer in 2020, homie. Nah, that is not even close. Yeah, Elon Musk said he wants to do it, whatever. And then this man, Delano Squires, is, I think, one of the smartest men out there. He's a regular on Fearless with Jason Whitlock. And he has a nice thing. This is the right hands up, don't shoot movement. A narrative long on emotion and short on facts. Chauvin pleaded guilty to federal charges of violating Floyd's civil rights and those of a 14-year-old in a separate case. He wasn't convicted of mob rule. So, there's a lot of things to consider here. There's a lot of things to consider when it comes to this. And the fact that now, out of nowhere, Derek Chauvin has a new advocate in Ben Shapiro. I don't trust it. Neither should you. Of course, the Daily Wire audience will come flooding and tell me how, I don't understand Ben, and Ben has a right to change his opinion, and why he's so mean, and maybe you hate him because he's a you, and all these other. I don't care about any of that. I care about the fact that this guy has one of the most prominent voices in conservatism, and he doesn't have a single he does not have a single principle that he stands on. He does not have a single principle that he is willing to stand firm on. Everything is up for compromise with him. There's one thing, and it's foreign relations wise, and I think we all know that's the only principle he stands on. But everything else, he's more than willing to shill for his audience and to grift his audience. Oh, well, if we're doing pardons, why doesn't Trump pardon Derek Chauvin? Yeah, put Trump in a super awkward position by doing that. That's a real great idea, Benny. That's a super great idea. I don't trust it. I don't think it's a great idea. And I really don't like it because Matt Bernard comes out and he has a great point as well. He's serving 21-year federal court sentence, but he's also got a 22.5-year sentence in Minnesota on a state charge. He can't do anything. So you pardon him at the federal level. It's a nothing burger because he's still there. And in Minnesota, you're going to have to get a part from the governor, that's Tampon Tim, the AG, which is that psycho, I don't even remember his name, and then the state court chief justice. I'm pretty sure all three of those are liberal, and there's no way on God's beautiful green earth that he created for us that any of them are going to go against this. There's a no-win situation for Trump. It puts him in a corner, and it just doesn't work. And the fact that Ben Shapiro, apparently the smartest man in conservative media, who's apparently a lawyer as well, thinks that this is somehow a brilliant idea. And there are people cheerleading it. There are people supporting it. Of course, all of conservative media is going to come out and say, well, yeah, Ben Shapiro said it, so I think it's a really good idea. Yeah. And anybody like Whitlock or myself that questions it, it goes, well, you can't question these things now. It must be because of his little hat. No, I don't care that he's that. I don't care that he's Jewish. I care that he's a prominent voice in the conservative media, and he has one principle that he stands on, and everything else is up for clicks, retweets, likes, and subscriptions. That's all. And it's ridiculous. If I was Trump, I'd be like, little Ben, stick to your crappy streaming service. Let me do my thing. So it's just absolutely, oh man, if you want to hear me go off on stuff, conservative grifting, cannot stand it. Will not stand for it. Even though I'm not a very huge voice, but I don't like it. I don't like the timing of it. I don't like the fact that if he does this gives the Democrats something to run on in the midterms. It's a total lose-lose. Don't do it. Do not do it. If anybody knows President Trump who watches this show, I don't know why you are, but don't do it. Do not do it. Tell Ben to have fun with his little Daily Wire thing and leave everything else to Trump. All right? Trump needs to focus on the economy. Trump needs to focus on getting, this whole thing with Ukraine figured out. He doesn't have time to go into which is essentially a land war in Asia. It's the dumbest thing possible. And, shame on Ben Shapiro when he's trying to dictate policy now. Forget you, dude. You're pathetic. Yeah, Ben Shapiro. I will never be on the Daily Wire. I can tell you right now, I will never be on Ben Shapiro's show. I probably won't be on Matt Walsh's show or Michael Knowles because they don't know I exist. And even if they like me, I'm pretty sure Ben Shapiro would zero it out because of my criticism of him. And I've always been a critic of Shapiro. And if you followed me from the Crusade Radio Network to here, I've been consistent on Shapiro always. And this is just another reason why I can't stand that fool. Here, I got to take a breath. Whew. This is RickCast. I am the aforementioned Rick. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. For the only takes, very few people have the takes that I have. And with your support, I can continue to give them. Let's move out. We're done with politics stuff. Let's do a couple other stories here. First one from awfulannouncing.com. ESPN wanted to slash Major League Baseball payments by over $300 million. This is the first of the reckoning from 2020. This is the first of the ramifications of going woke, making the everything about race and turning people off of sports. And everybody but the NFL. The NFL hasn't really suffered, but Major League Baseball has, basketball has, all of these things have. So they wanted to go from 550 million to 200 million. Let me have Clay Travis explain it.
That Rob Manfred, Jimmy Pitaro came to him and said, hey, that 550 million we're paying you? Yeah, we can only give you 200 million. What do you expect Major League Baseball to do? That's an incredible slap in the face. And it's not just a slap in the face for Major League Baseball. If ESPN had come out and they had said, hey, we got to cut costs everywhere. We are paying too much for sports rights. Ratings are not high enough. We've got to go back and we've got to readdress all of this. It would still be a slap in the face. But just this year, in the last year, ESPN signed on to the NBA for $2.6 billion. Major League Baseball actually outrates the NBA in.
Now, the reason I think that ESPN doubled down on the NBA is because they're looking at China. They're looking at the international long game. Baseball does not have the international presence. It has it in like Japan and other places, but the NBA has the Chinese market. And of course, we all know the Disney Corporation loves the Chinese market.
Virtually every local market that they're in where they compete. In other words, the Atlanta Braves are way more popular than the Atlanta Hawks. the Boston Red Sox are more popular than the Boston Celtics. What
For the fact of the matter is, New England is a baseball region. When before baseball committed, suicide with going in on Black Lives Matter. Of course, it didn't matter in Boston because they're all liberal, but baseball is the sport of the New England area.
Whatever city where there is an MLB franchise and a NBA franchise, in the local viewership, Major League Baseball way more popular. Okay? So what happens here is the NBA has more draw national. The matchups of NBA nationally tend to get more attention, but regionally, if you had to choose between having the NBA or Major League Baseball drastically.
They do, but when the Patriots are good, obviously the Patriots, because the NFL is a bigger league, would be the toast of New England. But historically, New England has been a baseball town, a baseball region. The Red Sox, the Sox are the Sox. And so, the Celtics, very popular when they're good. They weren't very good for a long time. They've recently been good. They won the NBA championship, blah, blah, blah. Boston's a big hockey town as well because it's cold. So, but they're all very close. But if people had to pick their favorite right now, it'd probably be a tie between the Sox and the Patriots.
Outrates the NBA. So what's going on here? I think really it's the challenge of baseball. Shohei Ohtani, let's say, I think it's probably fair to say, is the greatest baseball player right now in the entirety of the league, right? But Shohei Ohtani on any given night might go out and go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Baseball's hard. Even the best player doesn't always look like the best player. Whereas if you're a basketball player, you don't suddenly have a game where the best basketball player in the world, whoever you want to say it is, let's say it's Nikola Jokic right now, he's not going to go out and have 4 points and 1 rebound in a game. He's not going to post an awful game. He's going to get his numbers. So when you watch a national basketball game, the best players always look like the best players. When you watch a national baseball game, they might not. I think the future here for Major League Baseball is actually phenomenal because I think way more people would pay to watch Major League Baseball extra innings than would pay for NBA League Pass or whatever it's called.
And I think this is a direct result, like I said, of wokeism. Now, baseball has a very special place in my heart. I've said it over and over again. My wife and I when we first started dating, a lot of our dates, because we met in the spring and into the summer, we went to Texas Ranger baseball games. The Rangers were not good at that time, so you could walk up and get a ticket for like $10. Plus they had hot dog night and that all kind of stuff. And it was always so much fun to go to, especially gentlemen. If there's any guys who are dating a nice young lady and you're looking for date ideas, minor league baseball games or baseball games in general are awesome date ideas because you have food options. You can sit and watch the game and it's not so fast paced that you can talk in between pitches and things like that. And there's always something going on. Always love an idea. If you're looking for great date ideas, baseball games are like top for me. If you're looking to take a nice young lady out on a date, it's a fun time. And I've always had a special place. Baseball's always had a special place in my heart for that. So I'm always kind of I always kind of lean that way. But we're going to see this eventually happen to the NBA because their ratings aren't good enough. It doesn't matter the international market. And their national market games are not doing well right now. The NHL has never become a national thing. It's a regional sport, outside of the USA versus hockey game, Canada hockey game. Nobody really cares after that. So they don't have to worry. So it's really now people are looking at the NBA and the NFL. And those two, the NFL is being propped up by gambling, right? The NFL is being propped up by gambling. That's the only reason that it's as popular as it is. The NBA, it's international, but there's such a backlash to the lack of effort and the style of play that eventually it's going to catch up with the NBA. So we're going to start to see a lot of these inflated contracts and these huge contracts. They're going to have to come down because the money just is not there, right? They've plateaued at these, like you have NBA players that are maybe the 5th or 6th best guy making $16-18 million a year. And good for them, get your money, but it's not a product that is sustainable in the long run. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is RickCast. Last story of the night. It's a gun story, so let's get to it. Right here. Nope, here. Amouranth robbery update. Doorbell video captures gunshots and masked men. So there is a e-girl streamer named Amouranth who has made money selling her body, but she also made the mistake of telling people how much crypto she had and kind of showing. People do this. They kind of flaunt their wealth, stupidly thinking that people aren't going to come after them. But the fact is they did this. And Amouranth has posted an update on the robbery that she said took place at her Texas home. I think she lives up in Dallas, late Sunday night into Monday morning. The popular online content creator, that's a nice way of putting the fact that she's kind of a digital prostitute, lack of a better word, posted a video to her 3.8 million followers on X. Footage from her driveway where 3 masked men can be seen running from her house after gunshots are heard. Now, I've watched the video. You do not see gunshots. You don't see anything. You just see the doorbell. So we're going to take a look. This is her. And this is another reason why, like, people are like, I have dogs. Unless your dogs are trained to be guard dogs, your dogs are not worth much unless they're barking. Like, you're her dog. Oh, I have big dogs. Look at this dog. This dog's like, I don't want anything to see you. He's like, oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, hi. Go. What you're going to hear is the sound of a $7,000 staccato. This is why people need to have a firearm, and you can't count on security cameras. You can't count on dogs. You can't count on fences. Those are all great deterrents. I think those are all part of a security plan. But when it comes down to it, you must have a firearm and you must know how to use it. And you must be aware of the laws in your state regarding stand your ground or duty to retreat. But good for her. Absolutely good for her. Because in the end, nobody else is responsible for your safety. Police do not have a responsibility to protect you. I know everybody, protect and serve, it says on the side of the card. There's a case called the Winnebago case. And once again, I should have had this ready to go, but Winnebago SCOTUS. I know I didn't spell it right. I just count on. Here we go. Winnebago, Deshini versus Winnebago City. The primary holding is the 14th Amendment does not require the state to intervene in protecting residents from actions of private parties that may infringe on their life, liberty, and property. That is a SCOTUS. Oh, I didn't even show you. I'm an idiot. Here we go. There it is again. The Winnebago case. Where is it? The primary holding of the Winnebago case in 1989, the 14th Amendment does not require the state to intervene in protecting residents from actions of private parties that may infringe on your life, liberty, and property. The police have no responsibility to protect you. None. And so your safety is up to you. That means door locks. That means dogs to, warn you. That means security cameras. But in the end, you must have a firearm. And as Cracciello says, you must know how to use it. Oh, wrong one. You must know how to use it. And if there is. Yeah, no, the police have the wording of this case is they have no, they are not required to intervene. Ever. The police do not have to protect you. There is no protection with the police. They are there to write a report and, outline the chalk and get the body ready for the morgue if necessary. So you must take it seriously. You must get a firearm and you must get proper training. You must get a firearm that you're comfortable with. It doesn't matter if it's a 6-shot revolver or a Glock 19. You have to have something because in the end, nobody else is responsible for your safety but you. Now, this girl, she was apparently beaten and all of these other things, but so I don't really care about any of this. I just want to talk about the fact that she was the victim of a crime, and only by the use of a firearm was she able to protect herself from anything getting worse. She was injured. Her private residence was violated, right? The illusion of safety was shattered, and it's terrible for her. It doesn't matter what your profession is, but the fact of the matter is that if you tell people what you have, it's going to encourage them to come and get it. But in the end, good for her. She knew, Texas is a stand your ground state. Hopefully she has some kind of attorney on retainer or some kind of legal representation. That's why I recommend everybody, whether you carry or you just have a firearm for home defense, use something like Right to Bear or Attorneys on Retainer or one of these legal representation services that you can call, and they will walk you through the process and they will represent you in case of a self-defense shooting, which this clearly was. So I'm glad she's okay. And I mean, the reason why I said a 6-shot revolver crotchety is there were 3 guys, 3 shots were fired. That kind of fits in with the FBI definition. Most self-defense encounters, 3 shots, 3 yards, 3 seconds. That's kind of the motto people use. 3 shots, 3 yards, 3 seconds. And so people are like, oh, revolvers are fine if you know how to use them. And if you put the shots on target, and so it is what it is. If you want to have more capacity, you can have the argument. You can yell at me in the comment section down below how you must have a Glock 19 with 15 rounds. I don't care. It doesn't matter. If you have a 6-shot revolver, if it's a, Smith & Wesson light, air weight one that can fire 5 rounds at 38 special, if that's all you can afford and that's all you can run it. I'd rather you have that than nothing. So it is what it is. And good job to her for exercising her right to keep and bear arms. All right, folks, that's it for this episode of Timcast. No, I will never be on Timcast. I'd like to be, but maybe no. This is the episode of RickCast. Please like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, and that will help get this show to grow a little bit. The first night back, when you take a night off, it kills your viewership numbers. That's the curse of the golden handcuffs of doing nightly shows. If you miss a show, right? Yeah, got a big opinion of myself. This is RickCast, baby. Yeah, if so we're good. We're back tonight. And if you're interested in it, I will have a review of episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again tomorrow morning for you all. And then I'll be back tomorrow night. We'll talk about Trump's speech and everything else that happens here on the internet and all things that happen there. God bless. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.